you wonderful people, and welcome back to the Crested Gaming Lounge. In today's video, I will give you a revisit of an MMO I have spoken about a lot in my other MMO videos, but not as the main focus of the video itself. I am of course talking about the one and only, the original WoW, or World of Warcraft if you wish. As I have mentioned before in many videos, the biggest reason why I've played so many of these other MMOs is because I've had big breaks from my main MMO at the time, which was World of Warcraft. It was due to different reasons, mostly because I couldn't afford game time, at the moment, or I just felt burned out on the game, so I tried other MMOs. That's why I have so many under my belt. I won't talk too much about what the game is, like, the whole premise of the game. It's such a popular MMO, like most of you guys probably know the game or heard of it in some, somewhere or from someone. Even if you don't know much about the genre of MMOs itself, you've probably heard of World of Warcraft. I wish I could go into more about the premise, like I said, of the game, but there's so much lore in this game that has been developed over its very, very long lifespan since it was released almost 17 years ago. In November this year, it was 17 years ago. It was released in 2004. It's very old, okay? It's been around for a while. I will, however, give you all some suggestions for people here on YouTube that are really good at compiling and explaining the lore of World of Warcraft. A few to mention are Noble87, bellulargaming, and if you want some more lighthearted and fun twist on the lore, I highly recommend you check out Platinum WoW. He is brilliant. He's super funny. I will leave the links to their channels in the description. Go check them out, okay? I will give you sort of a short version of the premise. Like, we kind of need to know what's going on, right? The short and sweet of it is that you join one of two factions, either the Horde or the Alliance, and these two factions are in conflict with one another. The reason for these conflicts have changed heavily over the game's many expansions. I have realized over the years of playing MMOs how unique the concept with two separate factions really is. I have seen it in some other MMOs, of course, like Allods Online that we have covered on the channel before, but that is what many describe as sort of a World of Warcraft clone, which is very adamant. If you haven't seen the video, go check out our Allods Online video right now. When you have picked your faction, you have a wide variety of races to choose from. And that takes us very smoothly, actually, a segue into the character creation. Character creation. As you can see from the footage that is rolling right now, there are some very extensive options for races, and there's some very, like, you can pick and choose from all of these options. Some of the races have more than others. Usually there are more customizations for the older races, aka the ones that have been in the game for a very, very long time, such as Night Elves, for example, as you see in the footage right now. I do enjoy the fact that World of Warcraft does not have an extensive amount of sliders and other such options to change. For example, the size of a certain assets, like the nose. That's what I meant. The nose. It is very simple character creation with a few preset options to change the most common things, such as hairstyles and eye color, skin tone, those basic things. I've talked about this in like previous videos, especially when we're covering Asian MMOs, that they can go kind of overboard with this. There's like sliders, and you can sit there for hours and do that. I'm not a big fan of that. I don't like it. Right, we must go into classes and roles. As I mentioned before, there's a fair amount of classes as well, and these can fill any of three roles. damage dealer, healer, and tank. I will try and not go into too many details of the classes and specs, as some of them are very complex, and I don't want like a 50-minute long video, because like I could sit and talk about that for freaking ages, okay? The classes themselves are as follows. There is the warrior. This one is one of the more common classes in any RPG, really. They can fill the role of either DPS, which is damage dealer, tank, hunter. This is your classical ranger style class. It also has 3 specs, like most of the classes in this game, really. These are all DPS specs. 2 of them are range damage, and 1 of them is a hybrid of sorts. Like, you have some range abilities, but most of it is melee. Mage, so your typical magic user. They have 3 damage specs in form of frost, fire, arcane. Very simple, like it's your typical mage or wizard style class. The rogue is your stealthy and stabby class that also has 3 damage dealing specs in form of assassination, outlaw, and subtlety. They kind of, they describe themselves pretty well. Priest is very healer focused and has 2 different healing specs, and also 1 damage spec, actually. That is something that I haven't seen too much in sort of the priest archetype in other games. Warlock. The Warlock has 3 damage dealing specs in that focus on different ways of dealing damage. Many of the DPS only classes have unique ways of doing damage. The Paladin is the first class that has 1 of each spec that we talk about. So they can be healer, tank, or damage dealer. Druid, however, is a bit of a jack of all trades in this game. They can be both range or melee damage, but also tank or healer. Very beginner-friendly class as well. This is something that I recommend to many new players. If you're not certain of what you want to do, go with the Druid. You can choose and change as you go along in your leveling journey. Shaman. Shaman has 2 damage dealing specs, 1 range and 1 melee, and also a healer spec. Monk has 1 of each spec, so 1 healer, tank, and damage dealing. Now we arrive at the so-called hero classes. These start at a higher level and generally takes a bit more experience. First out is the Demon Hunter. They can be both damage dealer and tank, but they only have 2 specs. I do believe this is the only class that only have 2 specs. The second hero class is the Death Knight. They have 2 damage dealing specs and 1 tank. See, we sort of just grazed over it. I don't want to spend too much time on it, because it's going to take forever. We're going to move over to start leveling areas. Compared to many other MMOs we have gone through before on the channel, WoW actually have very unique start leveling zones for most of the races in the game, which is something I do miss in other MMOs. Some of the races in WoW do share start zones, but having so many zones make it still fresh and fun every time you level a new character. I will try and show some of the different zones in this video, but there are so many of them, I won't be able to cover them all, because that will take forever. Other than them looking very different, they do provide the same material, within air quote, in form of quests and tutorials. They go over the same things, even if they look very unique from each other. On the topic of quests, we will move swiftly over to that. So, the quests. The quest in WoW is very much like any other classic MMO out there. You walk up to a quest giver that are usually marked out by a big exclamation mark above their head. You talk to them, they give you a task such as go kill X amount of a certain enemy or so on. Rinse and repeat, In the old expansions, there is very little voice-acted quests. However, in the past 2, maybe even 3 expansions, Blizzard have put more time into making some really nice story quests, which is a very good development in my opinion. The reason why many of these older MMOs do not have any voice-acted quests or clear storylines is because many of them are based in old school RPGs, like, you know, pen and paper RPGs, such as Dungeons and Dragons. Therefore, most of the older quests is just like a block of text that you read through. It's just how it was. The gameplay and combat, one of the most important things, right? If you play an MMO, it needs to be smooth and nice. Gameplay in WoW is very old school, and it's nothing really out of the ordinary. Like back in the day, you used to have to look for an appropriate area for you to level in, due to the different parts of the world being adjusted to a certain level bracket. However, as of the last few expansions, they have made it possible for you to level up basically wherever you want in the vast world of Warcraft, as most of the content now scale very well to your level. You can even play with high-level players, like your friends that got you into the game, for example, and you can both be challenged by the content, because the content scaled the other way too. So your high-level, friend can still be challenged by the quests you do. The combat system in WoW, my god, I can't speak, in WoW, is a typical tab target system. But I must add, I do believe that even though it is a tab target system, it is probably the best tab target system I have ever encountered. And I have played many, many other MMOs with a tab target system over the year, but none of them really get close to WoW's tab target system. The graphics. The graphics in WoW is very unique, I would say. They have gone for a more cartoony feeling that does appeal to a lot of people. I am one of those people. I do very much prefer this type of graphic over the more like realistic looking graphical styles. One thing to note is that WoW has received its fair share of graphical updates over its almost 17 years. I will most likely do a separate review of how the game looked in the past, as it is very much possible these days, as Blizzard in 2019 released something called World of Warcraft Classic that takes the player back to when the game was first released, so we can actually see how it looked like. Won't that be fun? Bugs and glitches. For my rough month of playing the game since my return, I have encountered no glitches or bugs whatsoever, but then again, the game has been out for almost 17 years, and Blizzard has had plenty of time to iron out any potential bugs and glitches in the core game. Some bugs still pop up every now and then, with the release of new expansions, for example, but that is, to be expected, really. The audio. I will talk a bit more about the audio, actually, in this game. If we start off with the audio itself, the audio in WoW is very well designed, and spell effects and other such combat sound effects really translate well the magnitude of your abilities. This is very important in games with the tab target system, in my opinion, since you lose the dimension of a more fluent player control combat system. Therefore, the sound design of the spells and abilities must be on point. And I do really think that WoW, over the years, have managed to achieve just that. Now, over to the other spectrum of the audio, the music, the background music. I really do enjoy the music in WoW. It has, on many occasions, made me stop in my leveling, through the areas, just to listen to the background music. And in the newest expansion, Shadowlands, they have really amped up the ambience. I have many times in the area known as the Maw, for example, almost jumped in my chair as the musical score changed to keep you on your toes. That is really well done. Now, we move over to difficulty and pace of leveling. We usually smoosh those together. Let's start off with the difficulty. The difficulty has gone up and down a bit, I must say, in this game over the years. At its first release, the game was fairly difficult, with very little direction, and taking on more than 1 to 2 enemies would often result in your death. I will touch upon this in my upcoming WoW Classic video as well, because you will see how much more difficult it is. But in the game's current state, the difficulty is very balanced, in my opinion. You can, when leveling, take on a few enemies, as most classes, but if you take on too many, you can still get killed. They were at the point in the game where if you were a certain class, like a tanking class, for example, you can run through, grab everything in an area, and just AoE damage it down. You can't do that anymore. The dungeons are very challenging, but not impossible. As you can see from me tanking the dungeon in the footage right now, we actually died a few times, but we still managed to do the whole thing within a sort of a reasonable time frame, I would say. The pace of leveling has become a bit quicker since the latest expansion, Shadowlands, but I do not really mind too much, due to the fact that we have now been given the option to, after we reach level 10, to pick any previous expansion to level in and just enjoy our favorite areas once more. I have not done any proper raiding or Mythic Plus dungeons, I will say, at the making of this video. I have done some Raid Finder though, and yes, I know it can be a bit of a disaster playing Raid Finder, but so far I've had only good experiences actually. It seems like it has become better. It was very toxic at one point, but the experiences I have had have all been good. Right, the overall opinion. This is always interesting, right? I must mention that I have had a big break from the game due to shady stuff that Blizzard has done in the past. And if you remember the banning of Blitzchung way back, was like 2 years ago now maybe, not that he got banned. The reason for the ban, just, that was just the last drop for me at that point. Since then I have done some, serious soul searching, if you will, and I still do not like Blizzard in any way or form, really. But I did come to the conclusion that this game has been such a big part of my life for the past 15 plus years, and I still really do love the game. But then again, there are people that still don't play it. My girlfriend, for example, won't touch any Blizzard game, period. And I basically only play WoW. I don't touch any of the other games. Now, enough with the doom and gloom, and on to my opinion of the game itself. I do really enjoy the game, as my many years of playing it can, testament to. The game has, of course, had its ups and downs. Some expansions I did not enjoy as much as others. For example, Warlords of Draenor was probably my least favorite expansion. I still had fun playing in it. It just was my least favorite expansion. Where the game sits today, I'm very pleased with it. It's very balanced, I think in most aspects, really. At least the part I have come in contact with so far. I haven't really come in contact with, like I said, any of the late game stuff too much. And the level squish that was made, because they did make a level squish in this expansion, it went from, in the previous expansion it was 120 was the max level. Now they've squished it down to 60. This is actually... I liked it. It took a while for me to get into it. I believe they did it sort of to make the game feel less daunting for new players. Like, if you get into the game or a friend wants you to come play with them, and you see that the game has a max level of 130, it's gonna be rough, right? You're just gonna go, I don't want to play that, it's gonna take too long. I must say, though, that I was a bit tentative to, like I said, the whole squish. But it has really grown on me, and does not feel any different really at all, and is now very casual friendly. I know some people are not pleased by the game's shift over to a more casual way of playing, but I approve of it, because it just makes the game available to a very broad audience, and therefore keeping the game alive and thriving for much longer. I do think you should, try out the game for yourself, if you haven't already, because it is such an old game, right? And now is a golden opportunity to do so, I believe. I know the monthly fee is a big turnoff for most people, but you can at least try it out for the free trial, where you can level up to level 20. I still think that is the free trial, period. But in conclusion, the game is worth a try, even with its monthly cost. The best part is you don't even have to buy all of the expansions like you had to do previously, but only the latest one, and then you can get a month of playtime. That's about it. Which is still probably not going to set you back as much as a new AAA title. So, you know, the price is not too bad. So, you wonderful people, that was it for this week's video. It was a bit longer, I will say that, but I had lots to say, okay? Don't forget to boop that like button though, if you enjoyed the video. And if you like me, consider headbutting the crap out of that sub button and become a part of the Crested Gaming Lounge. And if you can't wait until next week's video, I do also stream over at Twitch TV every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday at 9 PM GMT +1. There will be a link in the description as well to go check out the Twitch channel. Until we meet again, I hope you have a great morning, day, or night, wherever you might be. See you around, guys. Bye-bye.